call the January 22nd meeting of the HPC to order. Before we begin, I will recommend that everybody in the audience there pick up an agenda. There should be, Robin, correct, printed some in the back there, and make note of the mission or guidelines that we conduct ourselves. You'll find at the bottom of the agenda page there. First item, if we could have the consent agenda.
So moved. Approval.
Approve. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Excellent. Let's see. We can immediately move into new business, and that would be action item number 1, request of Corinne Harper for 2301 Rivermont Avenue. If you'd like to please come up to the table. If you have anybody that's here with you who would like to address the group as well, if you'd please just state your name and address for the record, please.
Corinne Harper, 2301 Rivermont Avenue in Lynchburg.
Joe Cucci, Bella Outdoor Lighting.
Excellent. Thank you all for being here. Please just go ahead and give us a little overview of the project.
We would like to accent the columns that we have on the property because they are all original from the original house when it was built 100 and some years ago. So we would like to place some accent lights there in order to just accent all of the architecture features and stuff. As you can see on the picture, we just kind of set up a couple just to see what it looked like. That's only half of the house. We will kind of do it on the whole front of the house. We have already gotten approval for the ones around that will be placed in the ground, and they'll be recessed as well.
Right.
What we're looking for approval is for 3 lights to be recessed into the wood of the stairs. And we'll be able to access those from inside the house, so wires will not need to be run or anything.
Basically, the 2 lights right there where the 2 arrows are pointing at the very top steps.
We have a little...
No, the right there. Mm-hmm. The 2 above, closer to the front door, those actually go on the balcony. As you can see from the bottom of the ground, basically the lights will not go above. Here we go. See above right there, there's a balcony, and basically I'm planning on putting lights above there, so this way when you look at the lighting on the bottom, it will be a continuation above the top of the balcony also. So this way everything looks symmetrical. But the lights that we're talking about, if you look at the first column at the very top of the steps, the top step, it's basically a wooden, probably a 10-inch riser, thread, and underneath it's empty. Basically, we can run the wiring underneath the steps so you won't see the wiring. And the light that we're talking about, if you can pull back the well light, there it is, right there, right almost in the middle of the column. There you go, right in that area. If you can put the arrow on it, right there. Basically, that's what we're thinking about putting the well light, which the well light, if you go on the picture with the lighting, the fixtures themselves, I'll show you which one it will look like.
I have is that the sample?
So
Yes.
Just to confirm, all those other landscaping lights have already been approved,
They have been approved. They have not been installed yet.
but there are only 3 in question that we're looking at. Those 2 on the steps, and where's the third one?
It will be on the other side porch.
Okay.
Right below.
We're below. And
The first step. There
Yeah,
you go,
right
that
there.
I
one.
understand.
And I approve those administratively.
Okay.
And I think you might have a fixture, somebody there, right there, yes.
And that's just a sample of another project that he did, how it will look
Right.
installed.
Mr. Cucci, did you do Jenny Griffiths?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure did.
So this will be very similar to
Yes,
what
sir.
she has?
Yes, sir. Very good.
It's very tasteful.
Actually, that's her second house. We did the one that she was living on Rivermont Terrace also.
Quick question, what is it's an LED light?
Yes, ma'am.
What color value or?
The ones we're going to be using are the 2700 Kelvins, which is more the warm color. Anything below 3,000 kelvins, it starts to get more darker. Anything above 3,000 kelvins, it starts to get more of the whiter color. Anything above 4,000, 5,000, then you got more of a white, bright white, and we don't use those. Mostly we try to stay in between the 3,000 and 2,700, which represents the regular incandescent halogen fixtures that we used to have. Now everything's pretty much LEDs, going towards more LED, which they'll burn longer and a lot cooler, and it's a better fixture than what, actually those are guaranteed for 20 years.
The pictures that you showed us, the night lighting, is that the actual lights you're using? Because to me, that looked really glaring.
Well, those are mostly a demo. Basically, what I did was kind of to give the Harpers an idea what it could look like. We just kind of set them. So it'll look like that, but what you see is a lot of it is, and those I was using the 3,000 kelvins. Little by little, I'm starting to switch them out when I do demos, where little by little I have the 2,700 kelvins. Pictures, you have to see it at nighttime. The pictures really sometimes they can get washed, and it doesn't look the same. If you take a ride and see Jeannie's, Mrs. Griffith, if you see her lights, then you can kind of get a better idea. It's basically the same lights that she has. It will be the same lights that we're using for Mr. and Mrs. Harper.
That house is on the corner of Langhorne Road, where Langhorne Road turns. I can see it from my house every morning. So it's right there on that sharp curl. Across from Trinity Lutheran.
Beautiful.
It's what's that house right there? It's called Villa Maria.
That's
That's your house? Okay, beautiful. I would love to light up your house. Also,
I knew you did that. I was speaking to Jenny about
I
doing
watched
different
your
lights.
house being renovated. Beautiful. Y'all did a great job.
Thank you very much.
And I totally agree. When they photograph, sometimes unfortunately just the camera to
Right.
get the exposure overdoes it.
Right.
But based on the distance and this light fixture type, I saw a couple, not the ones you're speaking of, but a couple others that were similar, and it wasn't overdone, but if you don't put enough, it just
Right.
lights the first level.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and you have to. I would not do the job if I couldn't do right above the porch, because then it wouldn't look the same. You want to be able to highlight what was the beautiful part about this is the architecture on the very top of the soffits. I guess it's called the dental, the work. So that's what you're highlighting there. So once we get the lights above the porch, then you'll be able to kind of get the better picture of it and see what it will look like once it's all finished. And actually, we're putting lights all the way down to the side, almost to the back of the house, and then both the other side where the other porch is will light up the other side. So this way, whichever way you come, it looks more finished that way. But yeah, and what we do is once we install, and if you looked at the picture with the layout, that's actually the layout of the wiring. I give a copy to the homeowners, and I keep a copy. So all the wiring is buried. You don't see any wiring. And if they change the landscaping or anything is changed, then they'll know exactly where the wires are, so nothing gets cut. But when I do the installation, I don't just install it during the day and leave it and then never go back. So what I do is at the end of the day, when I got everything wired and ready to go, then I go back at nighttime when it gets dark, and we move them. Make sure there's no glare. Everything is done tastefully.
Well, and the only other technical question / comment I would have is the question is, they're shown quite close to the house, maybe 12 inches, which, because there's 3-foot overhang, I don't think you'd have a lot of light pollution, because personally, I would love all of Lynchburg's amazing houses to be lit like
Right.
this. I think people would be amazed what kind of
Exactly.
great architecture we have.
Right.
But this house has such significant overhangs that if you're just 12 inches out, very little will carry up past that. Because if everyone lights up everything, the night sky starts to get to be too much. But
and
I think
that's why I do the demos.
Okay.
The way we did the way we laid them out is basically so this way we have a good idea where to put the lights at. I really personally, I don't like to put lights so far out that when you're looking out the window, all you see is a floodlight in your face. You know? So this way, when you got guests coming in the front of the house, the front door, when you're walking out, you're basically you don't see the light. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't shine right in your face.
Great, thank you for answering that.
Does the applications committee have a recommendation that I can make based on what we've heard so far?
I have one more question.
Oh, yes.
Not that landscaping is under our purview at all, but what type of landscaping are you going to do around the house? Just wondering how it's going to.
I
soften the light.
right now, when we bought it, we've only had it since October. They kind of had minimal, just put some mulch and some things that kind of haven't made it through the winter. But I would like to put something that wouldn't be overgrown, but something that would just kind of accent the lights as well, and maybe something that would stay at least, through the fall, and not overdo it, but just keep it very simple.
Tell me if I'm wrong here, but isn't it wise to, when I did houses where we've had lighting, but it would always be accenting the landscape, which would reflect off the house. So if you're doing, apparently then all 15 of these lights are just accenting the house and no landscaping.
Right.
So what happens when you put landscaping in? Because wouldn't that affect it?
Well, now the lights, if you would see them, do we have any pictures during the day? I don't think we did. They're actually basically behind the landscaping. They're not really. If you put if you would put the light in front of the tree, basically that tree right there on the left side of the porch. Yes, please. Right there. If you would put just a light right there in front of that tree, basically.
I understand what you have there, but I'm saying that that's going to restrict the landscaping, what you do
Well,
in the future.
if I would put a light on that tree, it would be almost directly right underneath the tree. It wouldn't be facing the tree to where it would protrude back to the house. Because if you did that, then all you would see on the facade of the front of the house, all you would see would be a silhouette of the tree around it. That's why we put the lights right directly underneath the window or the corner, so this way it goes up.
If I could chime in on what Commissioner Little said, it's not in our purview for landscaping, but when you get to that point, the way they used to do landscaping was they keep it quite a distance from the house. You could actually walk between the house and your landscaping. So the position of your lights as designed is perfect for that. It's lighting what it's supposed to light, which is the house. But, around the 50s when foundations got ugly, people smashed that landscaping tight to the house, which then creates a microclimate for mice and everything else and rots the house out. So again, we don't judge you on what you do on that, but when you do that, talk to your landscape architect about looking at historic homes and how there's that. Literally the plants might be 8 feet from the house, and you've got a nice, beautiful, generous yard, so you have lots of room. The other side benefit is historic houses benefit from when they have their landscaping is the people inside look out and actually see what you planted versus looking over it. So again, we don't have to, that's nothing we ever vote on, but it's something that would help you because you don't get little animals living next to your house. The house gets breathing space, and then it won't affect your lighting. So it all kind of falls in place nicely.
Do you have another comment?
No, I was just going to move that we accept the application as submitted.
Do I have a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Proceed. Thank you. Great job. Beautiful home.
Thank you.
Oh, don't get you what?
Yeah, just in case you need that.
There we go.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is to hear a situation regarding the designation of 12th Street Industrial Historic District. if there's a representative.
There is no representative,
Ah.
and this might be slightly premature because there's going to be a public hearing and a presentation on this February 6th at 6 p.m. in this room. And I encourage you guys to attend. It's not for a local district, as you would know. It's for a state and federal one, so it just opens up these buildings for tax credit usage, essentially. But they are accepting comments right now, and they asked us to specifically reach out to the HPC to see if you guys had any comments on this designation. So we can put this on the agenda for February after you've heard the presentation, or I can take comments now, or if you've got specific questions you'd like answered, I can pass those along so they get answered on February 6th.
Does anyone have any comment regarding this?
What time is the meeting on the 6th?
6 p.m.
I do have a comment. I am strongly in favor of this being incorporated into the historic district because I know the city wanted to keep some areas out of certain districts so that they were still enticing to developers. But those buildings have a clarity of design that's just beautiful. I think people are now appreciating the industrial design. And so I think having some oversight on them is very useful. And then if they have a better chance of getting tax credits, that will be good because that particular area has really suffered and hasn't gotten tax or hasn't moved ahead, even though it has a lot of square footage, and it's in a great part of town, so close to downtown and in a quiet section there in Federal Hill. So I would just reiterate that it's I think, a very positive move, and I also think there's probably some other areas in town that might benefit from having some oversight.
And there's not really much oversight that comes when it gets designated as a state and federal district, unless they use the tax credits.
Then they do a
then
very
they must
good
do
job.
it per the standards.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess I think, chicken or the egg, if they've got the historic district, then hopefully they'll get the tax credits, and then they'll have the state helping them, make their additions and changes.
Being designated is there's a redeveloper for this building here.
Okay,
And they're looking to use tax credits to renovate it for apartments.
great.
Fantastic. Very good. I guess if there are no other comments, we can move on. And if anyone can attend that hearing on February 6th at 6 p.m. here in this room, is that correct? Yes. Okay. I would encourage doing so, and we can learn more about that project. Next item would be comment on 215 Cabell Street driveway reconfiguration. Hello? Please approach the table there. State your name and address, please.
My name is Ina Berzik. I'm at 208 Roland, and I'm here to talk to you about the 215 Cabell Street. Cabell, which I always pronounce incorrectly. This project was previously approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. During earlier discussions, some of the members mentioned that entering off of Hancock Street was preferable to entering off of C Street. Due to the construction cost of changing the granite curb and the feedback from the Planning and Zoning Commission, the client would like to abandon the lot line and enter off of Hancock after all. Since this is a minor change, there is no change to the parking lot, retaining wall, etc. We are asking this to be an administrative change.
And I have to recuse myself because they're our client from any vote. But there's no vote today. It's just a comment. So they wanted just comments.
My only comment, I live right up the street from that. Is the parking lot going to be screened from C Street with vegetation the entire way now then, the way they had previously screened it around the entrance?
Yeah, nothing would change.
Okay.
That would be a requirement from zoning, to screen the parking from the street.
No, this is the old one, correct? So you just want to change the entrance to where that wording is back there, which I can't really read from here. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you pass these out? I'm really recusing myself. Forgetting to read drawings. There you go. Sorry about that. And I think I'm allowed to comment, but it's actually Commissioner Morris had said, gee, why don't they abandon the lot line and do that? And they were under the impression there's a lot of cost to that, so they were, they're very, very tight budget, they do all the work themselves. But when we went to do the C Street entrance, the the granite curb, as I'm sure a lot of you know, go about 2 feet deep. It's a significant cost, and it's not like a two-guy project. It's heavy equipment project. So it's a much easier entrance off of Hancock. And if I may say, this is one of our earlier meetings with Ms. Nygaard being our new coordinator through the city. There were times where if a very, very minor adjustment came through, that Tom would allow it to be an administrative, but we didn't want to step on any toes, and so we suggested to the client that they get the feedback from this group so that an administrative person, especially one new in the position, wouldn't feel that they had that feedback before they did say, yes, it's okay to review administratively. So we just thought this would be a way to make sure that if there was a discomfort with it, then it goes to be the next meeting. But if there's a general comfort with it, which we thought from the original comments there would be, then it might be able to be handled administratively.
Yeah, I think it's a better solution. My question is, though, originally you were putting the lot in the back, and the reason you put it to the side, what was that reason again?
Oh, that was to kind of place it on that front lot C versus lot B or A. But
It had something to do with the lot abandonment, didn't it?
well, a little bit, but also that's true. It did have to do with the lot abandonment because we wanted it on that front lot proper. But the other side of it was when we moved it forward, the client said, you know what, for people parking there and getting to the art gallery, this is much better because they won't let us have ADA parking on the street per se. We need to provide our ADA parking on the lot. So if an ADA person in a wheelchair or a walker is trying to get to the front, the closer that parking courtyard is to the front entrance, which is the only ADA entrance to the building, the better. So that was the thinking, is that when it was all said and done, that really did make sense.
And so where it's going to enter on Hancock, there is no sidewalk there, if I remember.
No, it's just a swale, so they'd probably put a simple culvert pipe in.
Okay.
And then the other benefit, because Commissioner Morris, did I understand you lived across the street at that, or owned across the street? So you were also, rightly concerned about the screening, as was just mentioned. So instead of having an entrance there, it will be solid screening. We would relocate those trees to have a more continuous screening, which I think would be nicer for the neighbors. And this client is very concerned about, making sure neighbors are happy with these changes. So that's why they're, taking a little longer.
Well, plus you wouldn't have to disturb that brick to paved sidewalk.
Correct, which
So
is
I
a
think-
very nice sidewalk.
So I think it's a better solution.
I agree.
Agreed.
Will there be a walkway from the parking lot to the building? That's what I'm sitting over here wondering.
It's not in our proposal, and what we looked up is under the guidelines for like parks and ADA access on parks, there's a few provisions that talk about if you can traverse it, with a wheelchair, it's acceptable. And then the other alternative is if there can be dropout in front, it's acceptable. And since obviously we all know that probably if someone's ADA in a wheelchair, they're going to get dropped off in the front because it's just common sense. Why wouldn't you do that? Then you go around and you park, but you park to the closest place, which will be an ADA spot. So we did, one of our fellows in our office does a lot of ADA stuff, and he looked that up and found that they didn't actually have to put that in.
Okay.
So-
They could be driving as well. Need to get themselves in the
So
parking
now
lot.
there would only be 2 lots instead of 3? Because here's A, B, C. So you'd be
I think they'd
abandoning-
probably abandon all of them, and they were going to abandon it by deed, not by survey. Because again, that was a financial struggle, is having to pay for a new survey.
Okay.
And then certainly it would just be up to the the city office, the city folks, Ann and her crew, as to whether it can be an administrative, but at least we got the opinion from this group,
And
which
I'll
is all we were
proceed
asking
in
for.
Whatever direction you guys give me. However, there is nothing specifically in code that says, if you say I can do this, I can do this.
I love it. Yeah, we figured as soon as minor enough, it might be, acceptable.
I think as a body, we find that acceptable, so, sure.
So to have the driveway in the back with landscaping along C Street.
Completely screened,
And there,
yes.
and Lauren, I'm hearing you say there wouldn't be a walkway. I just want to make sure that's not going to come back in, because I thought that was a common TRC.
They haven't sent us
Okay.
comments. We sent the payment in, but we haven't gotten those yet. Well, no, they said we had to address it, so I was going to have to send this research back to them.
Is that right, Robin?
I'm sorry.
The TRC comments, are they waiting on,
For,
for this to happen?
I thought I sent those to you. For
I didn't
We can
see
address it
them.
offline.
Yeah,
But-
and it may have been that the fee was just brought to me
Yeah, I
not
think
too
it-
long ago, so
and-
I'll get those out to you.
Yeah,
I
with the
thought I
holidays
had,
and all. I think
but
it things.
I could be wrong. Let me double check.
Yeah, and we figure yeah, the last thing I have is just turn in that fee, so it's fine. As soon as you can get them to us, that's
Okay.
fantastic. Thank you.
No problem.
Excellent. That's it. Thank you very much. Last item on the agenda is comment regarding Garland Hill utility replacement. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to that? Please, if you would just state your name and address for the record.
Well, I don't know if does Adra, do I do
You
that?
don't have to, she's a city employee.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with Department of Water Resources. My name is Jess Gearing, and I've been here since May. So some of this was just I wanted to put faces to names and get to know y'all better as we're going forward. But I have 3 of these large ones. If you guys want to send them down and share them. I wanted to come today just as I do public relations and public information for Department of Water Resources, and part of my goal coming into the department has been to do far more community outreach as we're doing projects to get to know people that are in the project area and to receive feedback and incorporate that into our design as we're going forward. So with this one, this is a sort of a joint project between Public Works and Water Resources. A few years ago, after Fifth Street Phase 2, I guess. And do you know?
That sounds right.
That sounds right. Sorry,
Mr.
been here
Fitch
since
in the
May.
back of the room now. Is that
Yes.
phase 2 that just ended?
Phase 2.
Yeah.
Phase 2, thank you. After Phase 2, we had some buses and heavy vehicles going in the 400 block of Harrison Street as a workaround while we had Fifth Street closed down for construction. And that caused some buckling. You can stick on the first one. That caused some buckling and some serious issues with the original brick pavers that we have there. So Public Works had started talking with the community members about coming in and replacing some of those areas. We asked that Public Works hold back for a little bit so that we could come in and replace the water line at the same time so that we wouldn't be going in and out of the street multiple times and affecting homeowners, many of which don't have driveways. Obviously, Tara does over on the right-hand side of that screen. She has a driveway. But, we wanted to do the work at the same time. So we are proposing to come in now in the spring and go in at the same time. The water line, as you can see, it's highlighted. It is in the middle of the street. And the plan, after looking at the street, talking with Public Works, and talking with some of the folks in the neighborhood, I met with Tara West, Francis Calhoun, Kay Butterfield on Friday, and I have emailed with probably 8 more people in addition to that, going throughout the Garland Hill Association to talk with some folks about what they would prefer to see happen. We're looking at going into the right-hand side of the screen where you see the concrete pathway. That sidewalk is easier to get in and out of for everyone. We don't have to pull up the slate pavers that we have on the left-hand side of that screen. I think if you go to the next one, we have the comparison. pulling up the slate would be extraordinarily cost prohibitive, and we would be worried about damaging some of the root structures that we have of trees on that side as well. So going into the concrete side would allow us easy access. It would not impact as many driveways in terms of, well, not just driveways, but people that are parking on the street for access to their homes. And it would allow us to keep traffic open on the street, except for, of course, when brick pavers are being pulled up. Some of the concerns, if you move to the next one, we have more water connections that need to be made on the other side of the street from the concrete sidewalk. So we would need to connect from the water line on that side over to those homes for water connections, obviously. We will look at boring under the pavers so that we don't have to impact them. Obviously, there could be some issues where we need to replace some pavers if the board doesn't work for some reason. It's about 85% successful, normally around 90%, 85%. So there might be a chance that we have to go in, but they will be on a lateral with the pavers, so that it'll be easy to just pull them up and replace them. And then also at the same time, we are going to be lining the sewer line that is also in the middle of the street and updating the sewer lateral connections. So we will have to do some boring for that into the various homes that we have. And if you move to the next one. So some of the issues with the sidewalk that we do have in that one block are with Tara West's house. I can't remember her husband's name. But they do have that beautiful driveway, which we will work with them to make sure that it goes back in the exact same way that you see it right now. And they have some of those arborvitaes, maybe. I'm not sure what those evergreens are, but some of those need to be limbed back a little bit. And we've talked with her, and we will make sure that we can have them limbed back so that they don't affect the health of the tree, but working very closely with them as we do that. And as we get closer to the project, once we have the design figured out, I will go through and contact all of the homeowners, the business owners. We have obviously Shenandoah Tire Companies on that corner. We have the 2 photography studios and then the apartments that are above them on that corner on 5th Street as well. So they have some access issues with their parking lots. We'll work with them. And most of the homes appear to be rental homes, but we will obviously notify people well in advance to go with that. But part of my reason for wanting to come today was not just to meet y'all, but also to get a little bit of feedback because we will in the next 5, 10, 15 years be looking at pushing farther back down on Harrison Street and as well on Madison Street. So obviously once we start this line, that's the way that we'll be going down. And on Harrison Street, that stays concrete the entire way down. So we think it is the easiest and most cost-effective for the city in terms of that. But I wanted to hear any feedback, if you had any concerns that I could incorporate, or anything else as we look into the future as we're planning these projects down the line.
Just a logistics question.
Yes.
When you take the new water line, okay, so no sewer, just water.
The sewer will stay where it is, but
Okay.
we're lining the inside, and because we're doing that, we'll need to replace the sewer lateral connections to the
Okay.
homes. So those will be updated.
So then the question, do you give them each a new clean out near the street when you do that sewer work?
I have no idea, but I could find out for you.
If you could ask, just because that's oftentimes that's where you want to do the clean outs, so that you're just digging up the yard a little bit, or not even digging up, and
Okay.
and then that might keep any problems from the slate sidewalk.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, they probably have it covered, but it's worth asking.
Yes, absolutely. Anything
And they
else?
do have some clean outs, I just don't know if it's every house, so.
Right, yeah, I don't know.
Not
I
a
don't-
civil engineer.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm not an engineer, and I did not think about that, but yes, I can find out.
But basically, everything you're taking out, you're replacing in kind, correct?
Yes, that is our goal. And it was mentioned to me that that concrete sidewalk, I'm not sure if it goes all the way back. I would assume it does with the tinting. Apparently, it was tinted when it was put in, so we will obviously do that as well to.
So is that whole sidewalk coming out? So is it going to be patchwork sidewalk?
No,
or the whole thing
the whole
replaced?
sidewalk will be coming out, yeah. Because the line will be going all the way down we'll start at 5th Street and then run the line up to that corner and cap it at the stop sign on 4th Street.
Great. Any other comments?
Great, thank you.
Wonderful
And
work as usual.
obviously, if you guys have any questions about any other projects, please do come to us. You know, historic districts, obviously, we're working with a lot of folks that are putting a lot of time and money into helping make the city a better place. And as we're going in to do our projects, we want to be working with you as we do that, and not just show up and the next morning you're like, oh, hey, there's some folks in my front yard. What's going on? But
Thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if there's no other business to be had, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.